Okay, Lockdown Live is all about, well, it has been all about great Australian anglers in Australia, but we know that you're all here tonight to look at this draw card. We have Carl Jocumsen here live from his lockdown mansion over there in the USA, mate. Carl, looks like you have really set yourself up at home in this joint, mate, and what better place to be in the world's biggest coronavirus pandemic hotspot.
Yeah, it's definitely a good spot to be. We're very, very lucky to have it, and it's not a mansion, but it's a mansion in a shed crossed. It's both our dream place, and just couldn't be more grateful to be here right now in this time. We've got everything that we could possibly want right here, and it's it's made things a lot easier. It could have been a lot worse with the situations we've been in the past.
Yeah, mate, look, you probably kept an eye on the figures. You'll see that Australia is getting an A+ for containing this thing, and I think it's a little bit of good management. The government's done all right over here, but it's also good luck. Like, we live fairly distant apart from each other in Australia. We all sort of hate each other anyway, so we've always been socially distant anyway. So do you look at, and the news we see from America is, like, we look at New York where there's like 20,000 people dead and 250,000 people have been tested positive there. Where do you sit on that scale between Australia and New York where you're living at the moment?
In Tennessee it's pretty country, so we're in the south here. It's nowhere near as bad, and our local place here is super country, and everyone's very cautious. So everyone's doing the spacing. You can't go down an aisle. You can only be the one person down the aisle. And even in this small town, they're still taking it super serious. But it's good to be in the south and be in a rural type area with this sort of stuff going down. But everything that we've seen in the past, like the news that gets conveyed in Australia is totally different to what is getting conveyed here. It's the same with the president stuff. When we went back to Australia, everyone was thought Hillary was going to win, and there's no way Donald Trump. But we knew 100% that he would win, and it was like a no-brainer. But when we flew home, everyone thought it was like a joke, and we were like, oh no, she's got no chance. So that's kind of happens a lot. I see the media over there, and I'm like, that's not really happening over here. It's a lot calmer than what you think. But, obviously there's more people. You don't want to be in those big cities with just millions and millions of people crammed into it. But, everything's pretty positive over here right now. That from businesses to what everyone's saying, they're being smart about it, and they're working through it and have a pretty positive outlook.
That's good, mate. One of the things that we've done, and all the Fishing Monthly and ABT team at the moment, we're all working from home, which is something they've instructed us to do over here as early as possible. One of the artefacts of that is I've been able to go through some old DVDs that my mum used to film at the old events, and we dug out some really cool footage from the 2001 Bass Electric Grand Final. Now, I've sent you this footage to have a bit of a look at it, and it's some absolute gold in there. I actually didn't even know that footage existed until I started going through these piles of old DVDs that the old man had put from tapes onto DVDs. I go, this stuff's gold. Now, a couple of clips we're going to show now. We're going to drop to a clip now, and I'm going to run the clip, and then I'm going to come back to you.
Okay, here we have Chris with a story at Maroon Dam.
Here's Carl Jocumsen's sleeping bag from last night.
Oh dear. Never mind. Where do we get Carl on? Excuse me, I just turned it on. Here's Carl. Now, what's the story about your sleeping bag, Carl?
The esky leaked, I think.
The esky leaked?
We had a very exciting dream. Back in my days, we called it the bladder.
The bladder leak. So, Carl, there you go. There's the footage. That's the famous footage of Carl coming out with the physical evidence that you wet the bed at a tournament, mate. What's going on? Tell me the real story.
Yeah, there's definitely a real story, and you can't ever talk to Chris. You can't ever ask him anything. He's a known liar. That just brings back so many awesome memories. I love seeing it. Nothing has changed. Chris just got bigger and he can beat you up now. That's the only difference. But yeah, just awesome. As soon as I saw that, I know the tent that we were in, where we were at, at Maroon Dam, you know, that whole grand final, seeing the boats, like that's where it all started. But, you know, any opportunity Chris or me could get to give each other hell, and he definitely got me one there.
Look, there's some other footage that we're rolling in the background now. And actually, no, we'll cut to it now and we'll roll the footage of you and Chris on the bankside talking about your John Scofield fly. So let's have a look at that now.
You got the secret lure, Carl?
That's a secret fly. It's going to win the boat.
Is there a big bass this weekend, Carl?
There's no prize for it, but you get a badge.
Okay.
I think wouldn't mind it still.
So, Carl, that the fly was so big in the old days. Like all of the young guys now probably don't understand how big fly fishing was and how much of an absolute legend John Scofield was. And in the rest of that footage, you can see it on our YouTube channel. If you go to the ABT YouTube channel, the whole lot of footage is there. How good is it that the guys are just pushing the boats out, going about 10 feet, dropping an anchor and starting to fly fish off the front at Point Right Maroon there? Like back in the day, it was you hardly saw anyone not throwing a fly in those days.
Yeah, no, that was definitely the deal, and that's where I got super lucky to meet John, you know, in those early days. The Crestbrook Grand Final was the way that I actually got to meet John, and I was in the Kabbalah and Crestbrook fishing clubs, and something happened, and John reached out to someone that I knew, the David Libke, who was the main guy of the Crow's Nest Fishing Club, and he actually put me in touch with John. And we sort of talked because I lived at Crestbrook like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every day of my life from when I was 10. And then I was about 15, I think. And I got to actually fish with John. And then I sort of showed stuff at Crestbrook and he showed me how to fly fish and he just whacked them. And I'd never fly fished Crestbrook before. And that's how it all started. And then I was hooked. So I got very lucky to meet John in the early days and get the greatest advice and have a mentor like John to teach me all of that. And then you can see in that footage, it's just amazing. Like I've got that fly. I still have that fly box and those flies tied. Like I still keep a lot of it. And just looking back, you see me like Sue asked me what big bass was worth, and I didn't know if it was worth any money, but I knew you got a badge. So I was like, you get a badge for big bass, you know. And I was pumped. That was the big key to get that badge. But yeah, just that fly fishing. It's crazy to see that it has kind of tapered off and that it hasn't taken back off, or even I'm surprised it hasn't taken off over here because smallmouth. They throw flies over here on spin rods a lot, like on a little jig head. And that deep fly just hasn't really gotten, but just everything just comes in big cycles, and I'm sure it'll come back around and go good. But back then, like John was just unstoppable with that fly rod.
Oh yeah, look, he was our initial highest ever money winner on the bass side of things until some young protege of his kicked him off the table. And you'll be still proud to know that you're still like solidly in front of the next one. I think it might even be Matty Mott or someone who's the next one down now. But the rate he's winning money, mate, your neckbeard will be white before he overtakes you, mate. It's a good record you've got.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like to look and see that, pretty proud of it all. But like looking back at it, I remember I missed one ABT event because of an AFC event or something like that. But I was still fishing. But I think from the day I started fishing and I started doing tournaments, from then, which I was 15, I fished that first electric, to when I left here, to when I was 26 years old, I never missed a single event. Like, so like people can look at it and say, well, you know, you got money, but like that, it was a lot of pretty dedicated, never missed one. And just, I lived for it, you know,
yeah.
Still do.
What birthday was it when you won that big blue trophy in the background?
That was my 35th. So 30.
You were an overnight success in 20 years.
Yeah, it just took 20 years and I was good to go.
That's awesome, mate. Look, that's the start of our show wrapped up there. We're going to come back to you a little bit later in the show. We're going to talk about AFC and some of the nicknames that you got through the years.
Nice.